They stopped to buy parchment and quills. Harry cheered up a bit when he found a bottle of ink that changed color as you wrote. They had left the shop. He said, "Hagrid, what's Quidditch?" "Blimey, Harry, I keep forgetting how little you not known about Quidditch." "Don't make me feel worse," said Harry. He told Hagrid about the pale boy in Madame Malkin's, and he said people from Muggle's family shouldn't even be allowed in. "No, you're not from a Muggle family." If he knew who you were, he'd grown up and keep knowing your name. In his parents was a wizard folk. You saw what everyone in the Leaky Cauldron was like when they saw you. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best I ever saw were the only ones with magic. And I'm long line of muggles. Look at your mom. Look what she had for a sister. So what is Quidditch? It's a sports, wizard sports. It's like soccer in the Muggle world. Everyone follows Quidditch, played up in the air on broomsticks, and their four balls short tall. Her to explain the rules. And what are Slytherin and Hufflepuffs? Schoolhouses, therefore. Everyone says Hufflepuff are lot outdoors, but I bet I'm in Hufflepuff, said Harry gloomily. Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Hagrid darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You know who was one. You know who was at Hogwarts? Years and years ago. They bought Harry's school books in a shop called Flourish, and looked where the shelves were stuck to the ceiling with books as large as paving stones bound in leather. Books the size of postage stamp in cover of silk. Books full of peculiar symbols, and a few books with nothing in them at all. Even Dudley, who never read anything, would have been wild to get his hand on some of the bits. Hagrid almost had to drag Harry away from curse and counter curses, bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies with the last revenge. Hurlows, jelly rags, tongue-tying, and much, much more, by Professor Binticus Beardian. I was trying to find out how to curse Dudley. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but you're not to use magic in the Muggle world except in special circumstances, said Hagrid. And anyway, you couldn't work any of them curses yet. You'll need to know lots more study before you get to that level. Hagrid wouldn't let Harry buy a solid gold cauldron either. It says pewter on their list, but they got a nice set of scales for weighing potions in ingredients and collapsible brass telescope. Then they visit the apothecary, which was fascinating enough to make up for its horrible smell, a mixture of bad eggs and roasted cabbage. Barrel of slimly stuffed stood on the floor, jars of herbs, dried roots, and bright powders lined in the wall. Bundles of feather, string of fangs, and clouds hung from the ceiling, while Hagrid asked the man behind the counter for a supply of some basic potion ingredients for Harry. Harry himself made silver unicorn horns at 21 galleon, which and muscular glitterback beetle eyes 5 Nazi scoop. Outside the apothecary, Harry checked Hagrid's list again. Just there one left. Oh yeah, and I still have got you a birthday present. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Tell you what, I get your animal. Naughty Toad. Toad went out of fashion years ago. You left at the... I don't like cats. That make me sneeze. I'll get you now. All the kids want owls. That useful. Carry your mail and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Alpers Owl's Persium, which had been dark and full of rustling and glittering jewel-bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage that held a beautiful snow owl fast asleep with her head under her wing. He couldn't stop staring his thanks, sounding just like Professor Quirrell. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect you have a lot of presents from the Dursleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only faithful ones. Ollivanders. And you got to have the best wand. A magic wand. This was the Harry had been really looking forward to. The last shops were narrow and shabby. Peeling gold letters over the door read Ollivanders. Markers of fine ones since 382 BC. A single one laid on a faded purple cushion in the dusty window. A tinkling bell rang somewhere in the depth of the shop as they stepped inside. It was a tiny place, empty except for a single spindly chair that Hagrid sat on to wait. Harry felt strangely as though he had entered a very distinct library. He saw aloud a lot of new questions that had just occurred to him and looked instead at the thousands of narrow books peeled nearly right up to the ceiling. For the same reason, the back of his neck prickled. The very dust and silence in here seemed to tingle with some secret magic. Good afternoon, said a soft voice. Harry jumped. Hagrid must have jumped too, because there was a loud crunching noise and he got quickly off the spindly chair. An old man was standing before them. His wide pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom of the shop. Hello, said Harry awkwardly. Yes, said man. Yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon, Harry Potter. It wasn't a question. You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself buying her first wand. 10¼ inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand from Charmworks. Mr. Ollivander moved close to Harry. Harry wished he would blink. Those silvery eyes were a bit creepy. Your father, on the other hand, favored a mahogany wand, 11 inches, pliable, a little more power, and excellent for transfiguration. Well, I say your father's favored it. It's really the one that chose the wizard, of course. Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes, and that's where Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning skirts of Harry's forehead with a long white finger. "I'm sorry to say I saw the one that did it," he said softly. 13.5 inches. He had powerful wand, very powerful, and in these strong hands. Well, if I'd known what the wand was going out into the world to do. He shook his head, and then, to Harry's relief, spotted Hagrid. Rubius Hagrid! How nice to see you again! Oh, 16 inches ready, Bandy, wasn't it?" "It was, sir, yeah," said Hagrid. "Good one, that one, but I suppose they snapped it in half when you got expelled," said Mr. Ollivander, suddenly stern. Yes, they did, yes," said Hagrid, shuffling his feet. "I've still got the piece, though," he added brightly. "But you don't use them," said Ollivander sharply. "Oh, no, sir," said Hagrid quickly. Harry noticed he gripped his pink umbrella very tight as he spoke. "Well, now, Mr. Potter, let me see." He pulled a long tape measure with silver markings out of his pocket. "Which is your wand arm?" Well, I'm right-handed," said Harry. "Hold out your arm. That's it." He measured Harry's from shoulder to finger, then the wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and round his head. As he measured, he said, "Every Ollivander wand has a core of powerful magic substance, Mr. Potter, which is unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and heartstrings of dragons. No two Ollivander wands are the same, just as no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. And of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard once." Harry suddenly realized that the tape measure, which was measuring between his nostrils, was doing this on its own. Mr. Ollivander was flitting around the shops, taking down boxes. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumbled into a head on the floor. "Right then, Mr. Potter. Try this one, beechwood and dragon heartstring. 9 inches, nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Harry took the wand and, feeling foolish, waved it around a bit. But Mr. Ollivander snatched it out of his head almost at once. "Maple and phoenix feather, 7 inches. Quite whippy. Try." Harry tried, but he had hardly reached the wand when it, too, was stretched back by Mr. Ollivander. No, here's Everdeen and unicorn hair, 8.5 inches springly. Go on, try it out." Harry tried and tried. He had no idea what Mr. Ollivander was waiting for. A pile of tried ones was mounting higher and higher on the speedily chair. But the more ones Mr. Ollivander put from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. "Tricky customers? Not to worry. We'll find a perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now, yes, why not unusual combination? Holy phoenix feather, 11 inches, 9 in shuffle." Harry took the wand. He felt suddenly warmth in his finger. He raised the wand above his head, brought it swish down from the dusty air, and a string of red and gold sparks shot off the firework drawing dancing spots of light into the walls.